Calvinism is a cancer that infects Reformed theology. Beware. Only the Bible can give you a full cancer screening. Submit to it. During this series, we have looked at the extreme doctrines of Calvin: total depravity, unconditional election, limited atonement, irresistible grace, perseverance of the saints, or once saved, always saved. We have laid those extreme conclusions beside the harmonizing balance of Scripture, and we've discovered that Calvin was both an extreme reactionary and a false teacher whose cancerous legacy lives on beyond the grave. As we conclude, I'd like to return to where we started. Calvinism is like a house of cards. If one card is removed, the entire structure falls in on itself. That card is the first letter in Calvin's tulip: total depravity. Some time ago, a Calvinist mocked my use of Jesus pointing to children as a visual aid of the kingdom. I believe the reason for his mockery is this: Calvinists tend to start with a conclusion and twist Scripture to fit into it. Unfortunately, this man started with Calvin's conclusion that children are evil, and therefore he felt compelled to sanitize the illustration of Jesus, because after all, Calvin has to be right. He suggested that Christ's illustration was purely symbolic, and it was not intended to indicate that children are innocent. They're just naive. Is this the case? Was Jesus only using symbolism? Did the actual children in the illustration have actual qualities of the kingdom? Please know this: in the very same context in which children are used as a kingdom illustration, Matthew 18:1-6, Jesus also warns the world that if anyone causes one of these little ones, those who believe in me, to stumble, it would be better for them to have a large millstone hung around their neck and drown. Please notice two qualifiers that Jesus uses in this context to establish the actuality of these children and their character. Number one, the children who are being used as an illustration of the kingdom, they believed in Jesus. Question: how did that belief come about if the children had totally depraved hearts, tainted by the original sin of Adam? If belief saves, and these children believed, how are they unsaved? Number two, the children who are being used as an illustration of the kingdom had not yet stumbled. Why warn folks about causing them to stumble if they had already stumbled by being born wicked? The context of Jesus using children to illustrate the kingdom is very clear. The actual child standing before him was not a symbol. He was in actuality the character of heart that inhabits the kingdom. Conclusion: this passage is just one of many that undermines Calvin's flimsy house of cards. When total depravity is removed, unconditional election, limited atonement, irresistible grace, and perseverance of the saints becomes ridiculous. Total depravity is the Achilles heel of Calvinism. Thank you for joining me on this journey through the exposure of the cancer of Calvinism. Please share this information with your friends, and remember, only by submitting to the harmony of Scripture can the whole counsel of God be discovered. Always let the Bible interpret the Bible. It's time to discard the false teachings about a mild-mannered Messiah. It's time to embrace the actual nature of Christ. Grace is not always warm and fuzzy. When the house is burning down around us and materialistic humanism has lulled us into a disastrous slumber, blunt and to the point might be our only salvation. Please join me on live Facebook every Friday morning at 11 Central Time for an expanded discussion of topics like this. Last Days Live examines end times current events and real-time applications for the vigilant Christian. Archived recordings can be found at sunnychows.com.